Welcome to another episode of Progress Always. Mike Anders here. And as always, it is our intent to help the audience eliminate stress by prioritizing their health and creating alignment. And I have the deep pleasure today of chatting with Devin Butler, the founder of Arizona Entrepreneurs. He's steadfastly built an amazing community of business owners and entrepreneurs in all phases of business, brought them together around the rallying cry that is Arizona Entrepreneurs, and helping them develop and build legacy the right way. So I really appreciate you being here, man. We have bumped into each other over and over and over again at Sip Coffee in Old Town for the longest time. And we just two ships passing in the night. You're building your thing. We're building ours. And it was just the old, hey man, I see you doing it. And eventually that led to a conversation. I've been to a handful of your events with Arizona Entrepreneurs. And I just want to let you know, from one to the other, I'm really, really proud of what you've built, and just from the outside looking in, watching you build it, man. It's incredible.
I appreciate that, man. I'm honored to be here. So I appreciate the invite to share this time with you and to dive a little deeper. But yeah, it's crazy, man. I feel like we've been so connected, and I see you at Sip Coffee. Like, realistically, we probably ran into each other at least like 38 times. And yeah, just super grateful for the connection and excited to dive deeper today.
Yeah, man. Let's start kind of from the beginning. I know that you have roots in athletics. You were a football player once upon a time, and let's kind of start there. Is your willingness to go through the trials and tribulations of entrepreneurship based in any way, shape, or form around your experience as an athlete? Where's that come from?
You know, it's an interesting question. A lot of the things that I learned from football definitely translate over to entrepreneurship. As far as like how I got into business and how I got into entrepreneurship, I know one aspect of football, like that was my entire identity, what I was extremely passionate about, basically, like from when I was a super young kid, like playing flag football all the way until college, when I like wanted to go to the NFL, and that was a dream that I had for myself. And the first like epiphany where I realized like, okay, football doesn't last forever. That was the first thing that I had to come to terms with before I started to think about like, okay, what else do I want to do with my life? And one of the aspects about football that definitely, enticed me was the league and the financial freedom and success that a lot of people in the NFL had. So like, I wanted to have that level of success, but I also realized that football is not going to last forever. And I may never have a shot to play at the next level. So yeah, it really, that the spark for entrepreneurship and wanting to go down that road happened my sophomore year of college. And it was all because I had a football injury, I had a knee injury, and it was the first time where I had to come to terms with the fact of like, okay, there's a chance this may not last forever. And it's already proven, like Tom Brady, even like, he had to retire eventually. So it's like, okay, when the time does come to an end, what do I want to do with my life? And I really just started going down a whole rabbit hole of, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, reading all these books, looking up entrepreneurship and watching YouTube videos of all these like young entrepreneurs that were finding success. And I was like, man, this is the next step, and this is what I want to do. So that's what got me down the path of starting businesses and starting Arizona Entrepreneurs, essentially.
That's what's up, man. Dude, I got 2.5 master's degrees, and at no point in my collegiate education did any one professor, not even in business school at Thunderbird, put Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, The War of Art. Nobody put those books in my hands. So who put them in yours?
It was something that I kept hearing, but honestly, the same thing. Like it wasn't from a college professor or anything that I learned in school. It all happened from me just doing research myself. And it was this kid that I was watching on YouTube. He was doing like drop shipping, e-commerce, making that quick money. And, me just being a young college guy at the time, I was like, wow, that's like super inspiring. I want to figure out what he knows. And he referenced in the book, he said, my mentor told me to read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and changed my life forever. So I was like, all right, what's the worst that could happen from reading this book? And I think at the time I hadn't even read like a full chapter book. Like I was not like a education person at all, but I just remember reading that, and it felt like he was talking to me. And I feel like so many people have the same transformation with it, because it felt like he was talking specifically to me. Like I was just taught about money a whole different way growing up, and like all the things that he was saying was like, it was just, mind blowing, because I was thinking about stuff so differently just based on how I was raised, how my mom was raised, and what she was taught growing up. So it was a profound experience that led me down this path.
What was the reframe around money that you had to come to terms with?
The reframe was, coming from like a religious family background, and where there just was not ever an abundance of money. It was like, there's a lot of, money is evil, and that whole frame of thought. And then also like just saving your money, like, my mom and like my grandparents and stuff is just like, oh, save your money, save your money. And the reframe really I learned from Rich Dad Poor Dad was like, you want to acquire, the earned income, and then invest that into assets and start to build passive income streams that exceed your expenses. So you no longer have to constantly trade your time for money. And so that was more so the big transformation that I had from it, was like, how can I create things throughout my 20s that are going to be able to generate income without it taking up my time, so that I could start to, create some financial freedom and some passive income.
And when so let me ask you this, man, what drove you to start building this community? Because here's what's funny, and I know you know this, and a better question would be to ask, did you build Arizona entrepreneurs to solve your own problem, in that at some point in the journey, you're going to feel like you're all by yourself?
Yes. That's exactly why I started it. And it's because like that transition of like reading the Rich Dad Poor Dad, having that transition from college football into wanting to be an entrepreneur, and then moving out here to Arizona, it was like I had this passion and this drive for like wanting to be a business owner and have success, but I had no blueprint, no coaches, no connections, and I was new to the state. And so it was the first time where I was like, wow, I really need to be around other people that are thinking in the same way, because my whole life I was never around entrepreneurs or anybody who had this frame of mind. So I basically was starting to create the new identity and person that I was stepping into.
How important has that been, just to simply change your environment, literally, physically, like change states to adopt this new identity?
Everything. Like that is the biggest recommendation I'd have, especially for like young people who are like just getting done with college, or trying to figure out exactly what it is that they want to do with their life. And moving to Arizona changed everything, because it's where I started to moving here. Like back in Michigan, I was a football player. I was Devin Butler. I was a different type of person. And then moving out here and realizing like, I want to be an entrepreneur and create my whole life, my whole friend group, everything around this new person that I'm creating. That has been the most powerful experience. And like I said, back in Michigan, all my friends, all the people I was surrounded with, they didn't think like this. So it was very hard for me to find progress and to create success thinking about entrepreneurship when there was no other entrepreneurs around. So just being around that type of group and having those type of relationships out here has just, it's a night and day difference. But I do not think I would be this far or have the mindset that I have now if I stayed in Michigan. Like it was definitely came from changing my environment and getting around different people.
Was that a lesson that you had to learn by bumping your head a couple of times? Had you given this a go or two in Michigan before you realized you needed to change the location to really make it go?
So it wasn't the intention with moving out here wasn't necessarily specific for that. It was just like I wanted to get out of Michigan, get out of the cold weather, try something new. So it wasn't like I need to change my environment to find success. I didn't really have that answer yet, but I will say like I was starting different business ideas and like starting things out in Michigan. And the only people I really had around me was my immediate circle, was my football team. Now I'm passionately telling them about all my business ideas. They're like, yeah, like they didn't see that. And so it was, a lot of it happened from moving out here and just getting around more entrepreneurs. And that's where my ideas started to expand and grow.
I want to dive in here just a little bit, because I really feel like whether it's business, adopting a new and better lifestyle that's in support of who you want to become as an individual, let alone a business person, for your health, wealth, and relationships, the same dynamic exists in that, for better or for worse, that as soon as you go to make a major shift like that, that crab in the bucket phenomena ends up happening, right? And even as you explain it, it's really nonchalant. It's not you didn't have anybody going out of their way to sabotage your dreams or talk you out of anything. It nobody made a big deal about it, it doesn't sound like. And still, like the support, the nudge, the push, the motivation, the locking arms in support of I'll be your first customer. It's like that shit doesn't happen, right? If you want to get biblical with it, they say that the prophet's not welcome in his hometown, or something to that effect, right? And sometimes it's a defense mechanism from those who love and care about you the most. They don't want to see you in pain, right? So even that crab in the bucket thing can have the best of intentions, right? So how do you make that shift and not hold it against those people? Were you already equipped or empowered with that level of awareness? Like, you know what? They don't want to not see me grow, but they're not ready to see me grow. Like, what was your mentality there?
My mentality, and I think a lot of this came from football, honestly. So going back to your first question, but my mentality has always been when someone like doubts me or doesn't believe in something that I'm doing is to prove them wrong. And that was like with football, people tell me you're not going to play college football. And it's like, okay, I'm going to prove you wrong. So the same thing with business. Once I started to get into entrepreneurship and have these conversations with my friend group, with my mom, and like, just like put this out there, like, this is what I'm doing. And I would hear a lot of like, I don't want to, like you said, it wasn't necessarily negative feedback in the form of like they were just trying to be rude to me, but it was more so looking out for my best interests and being worried about me taking this risky choice. So it was the whole time I basically was like, okay, I understand what they're saying, but from this new world that I'm being exposed to, these new entrepreneurs I'm meeting, these new YouTube videos I'm watching, there is something here and people are finding success with it. So I had to have more of a self-belief in myself and the fact that I was going to prove them wrong, knowing that they still cared about me and loved me, but I have to show something before they're actually going to believe in me. And it's interesting to see how that transition happens, because when you're just getting started, they're definitely looking out for you. But then when you start to create some success, they're typically your number one supporters and like, yeah, you were right. So I think it just had to, for me, it was just, I had to double down on myself and believe in the things that I wanted to create and prove myself right, which then in turn showed my family and friends and the people who were kind of giving me flack from the beginning that it is possible.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. It
is. You know, we were rapping before we got started in this conversation. I feel like this is the appropriate rabbit hole for this conversation. A lot of the folks that I've worked with over the last, 2 decades of my career, I would say, to oversimplify the situation, is the broken executive, the individual who built something great or was instrumental in building somebody else's dream, and chased the corporate ladder, achieved some level of monetary success so they could afford the amenity that is personal training. And as that conversation evolved and that narrative continued to materialize between coach and client, it's like, man, I have everything you could ever want. I have the house, I have the car, my kids are on scholarship and they don't even know it, but I don't have a relationship with them. I haven't been to a football game. I don't have a relationship with my significant other. Boom, boom, boom. Like the things that are really, really, really important in life. Not that money isn't, but that's just a piece of the equation. And they've forsaken the other critical elements for that. What is it about Arizona entrepreneurs that you're doing with intention to help folks not fall into that circumstance?
That's a great question. And honestly, a lot of the stuff that we've been doing over the past year, especially, is more catered towards that. So when I first started it, it was more so just around the networking and bringing entrepreneurs together, because that, like, when I first moved here, that's the one thing that I needed and the challenge that I wanted to solve for a lot of people. So that alone, having like the right people around you with genuine intentions that you can lean on when you're going through challenging situations, that alone is that support network that you need to get through some of those problems and challenges that you mentioned. But something that we're doing more of and that we've implemented more of over the last year is like, your business is a clear reflection of yourself. So we want to teach you all of the business strategies and the things that are going to help you to grow your company. But at the end of the day, if you're not optimizing your own personal life and focusing on your own health and wellness, you're only going to go so far. You're going to have a certain limitation. So over the last year, with the coaches that we've brought on, with the sponsors and people that we're working a lot closer with now, is like focusing on the entrepreneur themselves and providing coaching and mentorship and everything that entrepreneurs need to go internal and not just work on the KPIs, the marketing, the sales, but also work on themselves and getting more clear with their mindset, with their, with their habits, with their health, wellness, everything like that. So it's a combination of providing that community and that safe haven where entrepreneurs can come to and have just a group of genuine people that they can share their ideas and the inspiring things, but also the dark times and the challenges that they're going through, to have a community of people to lean on. And then also providing them with the mentorship, the feedback, the support from people who have found a lot of success in different areas of business as well as personal life, and educating on those things that are important.
So, if it's not giving away the secret sauce, as you transcended the community element of Arizona entrepreneurs and got more into the ABCs, 1, 2, 3s of solid business practice, and now you're in this space, like, okay, like, you have your support system, you have your frameworks. Now let's make sure that you're taken care of. How did you identify that next step from, business frameworks to making sure that the individual driving the train and the vision keeps themselves a priority as well?
This is one I'm excited to answer, because it's actually very interesting how this has all evolved. Because as I evolve as an entrepreneur, I'm basically just building new curriculum and things for myself. So, like when I first got started, it was like, I just want to meet entrepreneurs and get connected with like-minded people. And then it's like, okay, now I'm actually trying to scale a business, build EBITDA value, build a marketing and sales team. So like, how do I do that? And then I bring on coaches and people to educate the community on things that I'm learning myself as well. And now it's like, okay, business is working great, but how is Devin? Like, how can I work on myself and become a better manager of people and just a better leader overall? And I start to create things that I'm going through myself. So it's very interesting, because I feel like each stage of Arizona entrepreneurs is something that I'm personally facing. And I'm like, wow, I need to share everything that I just learned with my community and build some systems and frameworks around this to where we can educate and teach on this area more frequently.
Did you have a moment where you realized, oh shit, if I don't fix this really quick, Devin's going to be left behind?
Yes. I mean, not specifically. It wasn't like a hard moment where that crossed my mind, but it's more so just like an evolution process. So as I'm trying to, grow and level up and discover new levels as far as like what I can achieve personally, even just aside from Arizona entrepreneurs, it's like, I need to work on myself as an entrepreneur and hire coaches and work with people that are going to help me to think bigger and to pursue these bigger ideas that I have. So there wasn't like a make it or break it moment where that happened, but it's more so just like, as I continue to evolve, I see the different things that entrepreneurs in our community of people need.
Yeah. It's very forward thinking, because to have figured that out at this stage of the game, that's something that a lot of folks that we've worked with over the years are figuring out, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. And it's an aha, they wake up one morning and they're just like, oh, I missed the boat on something. And now we have to go unlearn and relearn and recalibrate, and create and realign, their lifestyle around what they actually want and what is fulfilling, et cetera. And that can be a really daunting task. So the fact that you have a head start on it and that's at the forefront of hey, yeah, get that LLC, get that EIN number, do all that, but also keep that gym membership, get that coach, and prioritize your nutrition, make sure you're getting your sleep. You're having those conversations early, and that's awesome. It's good to know that, they're the way of the world. And I feel like we are the impetus for this. We're on the front lines with this initiative. It's like, let's get in front of all this stuff. You can make all of that happen 100%, but none of it happens if we compromise the person with the vision. Right?
Yeah. Couldn't have said it better. And yeah, it's interesting because just naturally, like as you learn new things about business and about yourself, you want to share it with other people. So a lot of it as well is just me, operating and trying to learn new things, working with coaches to where I learn a new framework, or even like one that happened over this last year is like, I wasn't a big cold plunge guy other than like for football, like for injury's sake, but I wasn't a big cold plunge guy, and like hitting the cold plunge sauna, doing that and seeing how I felt so different and showed up for my team and for my business. I'm like, we got to tell our whole community about this, because it's just like, as I'm learning these new things, I just see different strategic ways that we can partner up with other organizations and like integrate that more into the community to make that accessible to all the entrepreneurs that we're serving.
No, that's awesome, man. Being your own use case, right? Yeah. What's the adage I've heard before? Write the book that you always needed to read. That nobody was going to put in your hand, man. And you're doing that with Arizona entrepreneurs. It's really, really, really cool. The next question I have for you, with regards to transcending Devin and bringing that into the consciousness of your community, how have you managed to successfully take the things that are really nuanced to Devin's situation and deliver a more globally adaptable framework for your community? Because everybody feels like they're doing something different when we're all doing the same shit.
Yeah. No, that's so the way in which we like implement it to the community and get it across to our audience. So a lot of it is strategic partnerships, right? So it's like we may see that cold plunges, sauna, like everything like that. That's something we want to integrate and implement to our community. So we partner up with someone like Optimize. My good friend Michael runs Optimize, and create a strategic relationship.
Great dude, man.
I love Michael. He's awesome. But create a strategic relationship to make that more available to our audience and into our community. Or it may be like another good dude, Cole Gordon. Like a lot of the stuff I've learned about sales and marketing and lead generation, all that stuff. Like a lot of that was developed from Cole Gordon's framework and what I learned from working with him. So bringing him in as a speaker and bringing him in to coach and to teach our audience. And so a lot of it is just like finding the resources that are locally here in the community that solve like major problems that people go through in business, and figuring out ways to integrate them and create partnerships with them to bring them into our community.
What was the big one where you realized like, ooh, this is going to be the differentiator. This is what's going to make Arizona entrepreneurs different than another mastermind out there, or a BNI networking opportunity? What were you intentionally going after creating so that you wouldn't be seen or held in the same esteem as something like that?
That's a great question. So what I was going after, it's a lot of it is tied into the reason I started in the first place, is because I went to all those events when I first moved here to Arizona. And for me, what a lot of them felt like was very transactional. One, so where it seemed like it was essentially people just trying to pitch me different ideas and throw business cards at me. So there wasn't actual authentic bonds and relationships being built. And so that was the thing that left a bad taste in my mouth. And I was like, why is there not somewhere that I can go on a consistent basis where I can like actually enjoy myself and have a good time, but also like leave with new friendships and people that I want to go grab a drink or go to the gym with, versus like just a transactional business relationship. So that was really what started the idea and made me see the need in the market. So really what we're creating and how we separate ourselves from a lot of these other events is like, it is a very authentic, natural environment where connections are happening, not just people throwing business cards at each other, but people actually seeing how they can support and serve one another. And then also being very intentional about the venues we host them at and just making them very experiential to where people can come and it's not like a pitch fest essentially. So that's one thing, but I'm trying to tie this into your question as well, because one of the big things that we implemented that I saw like, wow, this really separates us. So we brought on a coach to like educate all of our members and host frequent like coaching sessions that are virtual. And I brought on my friend Aaron Belke, and he's like a coach working with entrepreneurs like to uncover their own blocks and their own mindset and stuff. And seeing that process, we ran like an 8-week program, just beta tested it with our current members, and like seeing the process that he took them through and like the transformation that people had was a very profound experience, because it wasn't all like, we didn't teach them anything about marketing or sales or how to go make more money, but we told them how to like overcome limiting beliefs and how to say no and things like that. And seeing the challenges that people overcame, it was something powerful to see. And then I was like, okay, we need to teach a lot more of like working on people themselves as entrepreneurs. And that's where the real breakthroughs come through. So then you can add on the marketing and sales and everything that's going to help you grow your company.
I think that's something that a lot of people just simply overlook, especially in the day and age of the internet, and if you're not careful, you can definitely fall into that trap of just habitual transactional relationships. And, it's funny, as a leader in business and building something great and incredible, how often folks need to be reminded like, hey, we're in the business of people.
Yeah.
Point blank, period. And it is, sending an email or communicating via text, like those should be secondary, tertiary at best. But if we can get face to face with somebody, that is always preferred, because now it's authentic. There's context, there's tone, there's all the body language and speech components of that conversation. And I've seen it go sideways, and some of it sometimes has been my fault. It's like, oh shit, I should not have said that in a text message. Not because anything I said was wrong. I just know that how I would have expressed it verbally and in person, if I had said the exact same words, would have been taken completely different than how that was read via text message.
Yeah. And it's the thing that I notice as well is like the best business relationships and people that I do business with on a consistent basis, it all started from a friendship. So even like you and I, for example, like we run into each other at SIP all the time. We build like somewhat of a bond, even though we haven't connected on like a super deep level. But that's like where I feel like comfortable doing some sort of business relationship and working together closer. So I think what a lot of these events that I went to had wrong, and a lot of it's not like on the event host, it's just like the natural environment that was created, but it's very transactional. People are just trying to see what money they can make from being in that room versus seeing like, how can I add value to you? How can I serve everything you're doing? And in turn, like creating a mutually beneficial agreement and partnership. So I'm a big believer in just like building the environment where it's a bunch of like-minded people who are hungry to do big things and everybody shares that in common, bringing them together to build friendships. And then from there, there's going to be so many similarities and commonalities for people to partner up and work together. But it all started from the connection and the friendship first.
Yeah, it's the human element that's ultimately, whether it's a product or a service, like that's who we serve is other human beings. So let's leverage technology and the digital environment, but let's not forget that ultimately that service and that product, that interaction is with another human being. And I'm watching it happen in real time, and it's really crazy to me, this rush for automation, right? And removing human interaction as much as possible And it's like, okay, that's going to drive revenue in the short term, but what are the long-term ramifications of that behavior? Like where is the epic point of failure down the chain because we've over relied on digital and not taken the, sometimes long and friction based approach of creating relationships. Like what happens when you can't make that phone call?
Yeah, it'll probably be here before we know it. It's happening real quick.
You're going to see more and more of that. I firmly believe that. I think that there's most definitely a place for AI, and we're watching that. We're watching businesses be built exponentially with using it as a tool, but it's not. It can't be the foundation of your deal. Like everything that you're about with Arizona Entrepreneurs, everything that we do at Next Level is centered around people. Mm-hmm. You can't take the people out.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Cause like you said, it's definitely a tool and a resource to help companies grow really quickly. So there's probably going to be some very impactful big companies and a lot of changes to the business landscape. But as far as that human to human connection, which is extremely important in business, how that's going to all integrate with that, only time will tell.
Yeah. How do you approach people that have big ideas and feel like there's a gap in the market for them to supplant themselves, and yet don't necessarily belong in that driver's seat? I'm sure you have a handful of folks in that room that have a skill set or value to offer, and at the same time, for better or for worse, should not be the driver of a vision.
I think overall, not based off specific experience or an entrepreneur that I can think of off the top of my head, but I think there is definitely a lot of ways to work within companies as an entrepreneur, and working alongside a CEO, a visionary, someone who sees the really long-term picture within an organization and being able to help them to create within that marketplace. So I can't think of a specific example of a member that I've dealt with that was where I've noticed that. Mm-hmm. But I think there are a lot of internal roles where someone could go within an existing company and be the rocket fuel to help grow that company, but they're not necessarily supposed to be the one driving the vision forward. And I noticed that it's at least from my understanding, after reading E-Myth and Traction and a lot of these books, the way in which I work best on teams is I'm definitely a visionary where I see the long term, the goal, and I could definitely get an entire team bought in on the long-term vision of where we're going. But when it comes to integration and the day-to-day, that is not my zone of genius by any means. So also throughout the community, if I see someone who's extremely passionate about this industry and they have an idea or something that they can bring to the marketplace, it's seeing how we can help foster relationships for that person that might help fuel that venture, whether that's people becoming business partners or collaborating, whatever that looks like. But yeah.
Have you seen, something materialize beyond a strategic partnership? I've taken this as far as I know how to get it, and I either need to dissolve it completely and do something different, or I need to go ahead and hitch this to somebody else's wagon so that they can continue to drive it forward. Have you seen somebody come to those realizations yet?
Not specifically, as far as making a huge pivot where they decide to either no longer continue to build that idea or to pass it on to someone else. Not a specific example like that, but I have. So actually, that's not true. So there is a company that's a part of the group, and it was one founder, one owner, and he was basically at the point to where he got it as far as he could. He no longer had enough capital to finish the app build out, and it was okay, this is as far as I can take it. And then he ended up bringing on 2 other business partners that were met within the community and everything. So brought on 2 other business partners, and they also found an investor at one of the events who invested quite a bit of money into funding the app and everything. So that's actually a good example where it wasn't something where he was like ready to give up on the idea. It was more so that he just came to an upper limit of like, okay, this is as far as I can take it. I need some more strategic support with building it out, and also funding to help like propel this idea forward and build out the application. So I guess that's the best example I could think of off the top of my head.
No, man, that's massive, because, there's I've got so many examples as we evolve next level and helping our clients, come back to this fulfillment equation, right? Because everything that we do, the foundation is taking care of the physical vessel that is you, right? Let's get Devin taken care of first, right? And I feel like you and I are going to meet in the middle at some point, because you're working from the top down and we're working from the bottom up, right? And there's some obvious and beautiful synergy there. And, for us, and as we get that physical foundation taken care of, you're feeling better, you're sleeping better, you have more clarity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now we can start making some proactive decisions around the rest of your existence, right? Whereas when you don't have that taken care of, so much of it is reactionary, because day to day, you don't know how the fuck you're going to feel. You're tired, you're irritable, you're lethargic because you're eating like trash, you're sleeping like trash. You didn't get to train today because you haven't gone through a time audit and figured out where you actually fit in your schedule, because you wake up, hit the ground running, and immediately start pouring into everybody else. And when you get to that point, and you've essentially made yourself a priority again, well, now like strategic partnerships start to make sense, and you can come to grips with, maybe it's not, maybe you're not at the limit of your capability, but you didn't have the bandwidth to take it any further. Right. So now it's like, now do I go out and get those partners? Can I actually do it myself? Is it capital that I need? Right. You can start having honest conversations with yourself once you've achieved that level of clarity, because all the physical fog is dissipated.
100%. Yeah. And that's like the power in just like having a routine and a healthy habits, as far as like focusing on yourself first and then your business, because 95% of the time. And I feel like that's even what a lot of like the business community space teaches. And honestly, like, quite frankly, the first year we were in business, like, it was just about the networking, the business, but we weren't really emphasizing the personal side of things. But as I grow more within business, I see it's a night and day reflection. Like, if my business is absolutely crushing it, it means I am dialed in and personally crushing it in my own life. But when the business has taken, a dip, is typically because I'm not mentally there and not mentally clear myself. So I see a direct reflection of that with my own company, and I know it translates to all the entrepreneurs in our community. So I wholeheartedly agree that it's like the entrepreneur first, like, how are you doing? And then think about your business, because it's really easy to get caught up in the other way around. And especially when you're just getting started and you don't have your financial means yet, like, that typically becomes first priority, where it's like, I got to be able to pay my rent this month, and then I can think about myself, which is not necessarily the right way to go about it. But typically that's where that comes from, is like being in that scarcity mindset of like, I have to figure out how to make money.
It's really counterintuitive, the like, oh shit, I gotta make rent, so I'm not gonna work out today. Bills need to get paid. They're about to shut off my phone, so I'm not gonna go have that coffee, right? I'm not gonna have that conversation. And but if you notice the pattern of language, right? It's like, I have this need that needs to be met. Yes, you have to pay rent. Yes, you got to put food in the fridge. Yes, you got to put gas in the car. That needs to happen. But you're talking about all the things you're not going to do. If you did them, the likelihood of those other things getting done, it increases exponentially.
I agree, and it's crazy because when you're going through that, your mind doesn't logically think that. It's like, okay, I gotta pay rent, so I need to get on some sales calls today rather than go hit the gym. But it's a direct reflection, and that's something that I think takes a little bit of time to understand, especially once you know how you operate, just off like not hitting the gym, not meditating, not focusing on yourself, to where you do, and you see the night and day difference. It's like, wow, okay, this whole time I've been neglecting the most important thing for my business. And honestly, like for me, from football, like I've always been active and still in the gym and everything, but there's definitely times where I don't take it as seriously as I did back in the football days. And I notice, like, even over this last year, like bringing it back to the cold plunges and sauna and everything like that, I noticed how when I implemented those and made it a habit to go to optimize, to hit the gym consistently and do all that, I just showed up so different for my business and for my team. And once you see the two ways you show up, now it's on you, because you're self-aware of it. And so now you have to make the decision and have the discipline from there.
Yeah. So let me ask you, man, well, what works for Devin? I had a great friend of mine, Mike Bledsoe, on the podcast a couple of months ago, and he uses very intentional language, and he doesn't necessarily believe in routines because that locks you in, but rituals are flexible, right? And so I'm curious for Devin, what's your daily rituals look like?
I like that reframe, honestly, because it's the same for me. Is like there's a routine or a ritual that might work for one season of my life where it's like, okay, I want to hit the gym first thing when I wake up, but then as I pivot or I'm in a different focus or a different phase, like it often pivots. So right now, the ritual, the routine that works really well for me is like a 6 a.m. wake up, reading the book, and then just getting into some deep work right away without hitting the gym. And so I do that until typically 9 a.m. and then I hit the gym. And then 10 o'clock is when I start my work day. So by then I've been able to like get some deep work done without anybody hitting me up, without my phone buzzing because it's early enough in the morning. Been able to like self-develop, read the book, and then also like go in and get a workout. And I'm typically like fired up and ready to go for the day. So that's the morning ritual, like the things at least in whatever chronological order, the things at least that I need to get in the morning before I start like getting into the deep work. And then also like there was a time period where I was going every single day, but now it's been more around like 3 times a week. But the cold plunge, the red light, the sauna, that just has me feeling like I could fly every time I leave. That is something I've definitely been prioritizing a lot more, is to do those additional therapies. But yeah, it's really just, focus on developing my education and making sure that I'm staying sharp and learning new things that are going to help propel me forward in business and my personal life. And then focusing on my health and making sure that I'm eating right and in the gym, and then spending the whole day like working on the business and moving the needle forward for my company. Those are the things that really help me to continue to see results.
I like the fact that, you have those priorities, and depending on the season, they're not in any particular order.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you check the boxes, the day is done.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that that's something that I would love everybody listening to this conversation to take from this, at the very least, is that we watch people struggle a lot in the very beginning when they're trying to recreate and find alignment with their identity around these routines. And it's like, I didn't journal today. I didn't read my 10 pages. I got to start over on 75 hard. Bah, bah, bah. It's like wall after wall after wall after wall. And it's like, no, man, like you just introduce it, you test it, you see where it fits for you, like ultimately what needs the journaling is just the medium, to get the things that are in your head out, to create clarity. That's the intent behind the exercise. Does it have to be that specifically? No. Does that have to be done first thing out of bed? No. Does it need to be done right before you go to bed? No. But the exercise is, okay, what do I need to do to get all the nonsense out of my head so that I can be clear and intentional about everything else that has a priority, right? And when, all kinds of things become possible when you absolve yourself of the specificity of things and start driving the train with purpose and intent, right? You're even your training, as long as you've been working out, what do I need from this session today? Am I just moving around? Am I legit trying to PR this bench press? What am I just trying to escape my situation for 60 minutes? Like, what is the intent? And then you find a lot more satisfaction in whatever that process ends up being.
That's very well said. I totally agree. Yeah, it's like having non-negotiables for yourself and what is going to help get you towards that goal, as far as like, health, physical, personal, everything that you're focusing on. So having those non-negotiables, and like I mentioned earlier, it doesn't necessarily have to be a specific order, and that changes oftentimes. Like there was a time period where I would hit the gym like around 2-3 o'clock, like midday, to split up by day, and that was working really well for a period of time. And then I was like, I got to get back in the morning sessions. I feel better in the morning. So it ebbs and flows as far as when I get those non-negotiables and daily activities in. But as long as you're prioritizing, like staying committed to doing those things that are going to help improve your personal as well as business side, that's what's more important, more than just like a specific routine that you're boxed in on.
Yeah, I think the routine help definitely, locking it in just to create the habit and the supportive behavior definitely helps in the beginning. But once you get the hang of what those non-negotiables actually are, now, depending on the season you're in, are we on the grind? Do I got to pick up the kids today? Whatever needs to happen, okay, I'm going to trade this back squat for, 15,000 steps where it would have otherwise been 10 today, because that's what life gave me today. And now I'm okay with that. I don't feel like I failed. I'm not going to bed with this negative frame of mind because I didn't do what was on the calendar today, right? I've given myself the gift of grace because I understand my non-negotiables.
Yeah,
that's hard. That's hard to do if you haven't spelled that out for yourself.
It is.
Yeah. And that's where we come in a lot for our clients, is like, hey, make sure you're taken care of. Ultimately, that's what we're after. Right. And then, once you check that box, however that manifests for you, cool. Now let's go execute. And way too often, man, people are just like executing without making themselves a priority. Yeah. And that you get really wide and really shallow really quick.
It's crazy because like when I share this stuff, I do not share it all like I'm perfect and above anyone else, because there's definitely like seasons where I don't prioritize myself and I'm much more focused on the business side. And it's crazy because like this was like fairly recently, like within the last couple of months, but I was like just feeling really burnt out with my business and like everything that I had going on with these different ideas that I was pursuing. And I've now realized that like burnout is typically a direct correlation with me not taking care of myself and not taking care of the mental. And as I like started to rewind my day and like figure out why am I burnt out, I was like, okay, I didn't hit the gym today or for the last week. I didn't read my book. I didn't do this. So a lot of these negative emotions and things that stress us out and burn us out in business are a clear reflection of us not prioritizing ourselves in the first place.
Ooh, what a barometer that is. It's like, ooh, I'm not myself. Maybe I need to take care of myself. Maybe all the things going wrong in my business or the things that are not happening in my business, to the point that you made earlier, are a direct reflection of what's not happening internally.
Exactly.
Dude, how powerful is that? That's wow. Yeah, 100%. 100%. So how short is that feedback loop for you now? How fast do you realize, oh shit, I'm out of alignment. Let me get back to center. How fast does that happen for you now?
It's pretty quick. And honestly, like it's the entrepreneurship is so cool to me because you're just like learning new things about yourself and about your business and what creates results, what don't every single day. So that was even an epiphany that I had like over the last, like I said, last 2 months, to where it was like I was just in a really stressful phase and just feeling burnt out. And I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't been to the gym in a few days and I haven't done these things that typically make me feel good and keep me out of that state. So the feedback loop is pretty good now, but it all comes from the central point of awareness. Now that I'm aware of that and aware that a lot of these negative emotions and feelings that I have of like stress and burnout are typically a reflection of me not prioritizing myself in the first place. So now that I have that level of awareness and I start to feel those feelings in business, I typically know where they're coming from, and I could kind of do a calendar audit and look at my last couple of days and be like, okay, it makes sense now.
Yeah, you've empowered yourself with accountability, right? It's like the common denominator is always us, right? In any encounter, any situation, any transaction, we are always a part of that in some way, shape, or form. And when you start looking at it from that perspective, that self-accountability becomes really, really powerful. Because to your point, once you're aware, everything beyond that awareness, I don't care how subtle or how extravagant it is a choice. And that is, I think, one of the coolest conversations that you can have with yourself is just simply acknowledging, after a certain point, I'm choosing this existence. And the real power there is like, oh shit, if I can choose my way into this, I can choose my way out.
Yep.
Right?
Yes.
So
no, that's crazy. Yeah. Because like I keep reframing a lot of this around business just because that's the easiest example for me to think of, is because I think there's a clear correlation there, but it 100% is a choice. And it's like, okay, although it doesn't seem like it's a direct correlation where it's like, okay, I haven't hit the gym the last 3 days and I'm feeling burnt out or I'm feeling stressed out today. There's a lot that is coming from the fact that I haven't been prioritizing myself and hitting the gym. So it all is a choice. So like that burnout I was feeling, that stress I was feeling, I essentially chose that, although it was like a subconscious feeling. It wasn't like I'm choosing to be stressed out today. But a lot of that was tied into the root of me not prioritizing myself in the first place.
Yeah, 100%, man. 100%. Dude, I really appreciate you taking the time. So much value in this conversation for our audience. And, to that end, where can they go and support you and everything that Arizona Entrepreneurs has to offer?
So the place we're most active on is definitely Instagram. So the Instagram is just at Arizona Entrepreneurs, and we post all of our upcoming events and everything that we have going on in the community. So we're doing events every single month, bringing business owners together to connect. So yeah, our Instagram at Arizona Entrepreneurs, or our website, just arizonaentrepreneurs.com. But both of those sources have a lot of information about how people can get plugged in and involved with the community.
That's awesome, man. I'm grateful for everything that you're building, man. You're definitely one of the game changers out here. And, I'm just happy to be running alongside you, man.
Same, brother. Yeah. I'm honored to be here, man. I appreciate you having me on, and excited to continue building the relationship and see how we can continue to level up together.
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna make that happen, man.
Yes, sir.
For everybody out there in the audience, make sure you take a look at Arizona Entrepreneurs, especially if you're local, and take advantage of everything that Devin has to offer. We're definitely going to collaborate down the road. And when you're ready to create that alignment and start moving the needle from where you are to who you want to become, click the link in the show notes and let's get that conversation going. We'll make it happen. Until next time, guys, progress always.